Movies are about emotions. They're meant to manipulate you and make you feel something, which is why it's hard to make an effectively good movie. So when studios do get one right, they're very keen on making sequels and banking off of it. Because for fans, revisiting those characters, places, themes brings back the same feelings you had when you saw the first one, and you're willing to dish out any type of cash to invest in those stories. That's of course if they even set one up to begin with. We all know the point of a cinematic universe. It's to take a story that a lot of people like and be able to expand on it by focusing on some of the side characters or the co-characters and be able to tell their perspectives of the story to create an entire world or universe. We've seen this done by a lot of major studios, for example, the big three with Disney Marvel, Warner DC, Fox Marvel, but we even have the Pixar universe that kind of has their own stuff going on even though it's still a theory and not connected. There's the Lego cinematic universe that's expanding to different properties. The Conjuring universe is one that's growing up, which, first of all, my boy James Wan has done class work with the Conjuring movies, so can you guys just please stop messing with his babies? The Harry Potter franchise is becoming one. Madagascar kind of is one. Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings have expanded outside of their main storylines to create a universe. And there's even some that are trying to become one, like the Dark Universe with the Mummy. King Kong and Godzilla want to have their Monsterverse. Hasbro and Paramount want to expand on Transformers by combining it with G.I. Joe. And even the Fast and the Furious franchise wants to get its own spin-offs. And sure, look, some of them are successful, some of them fail, some of them have yet to start, but out of all of those that I mentioned, and even a bunch of the other ones, there's one in particular that I not only think is the dumbest, the laziest, but maybe even the most disrespectful out of the bunch. And look, I'm not saying when I'm calling it dumb that I'm not looking forward to it. I know that there are people who like these two movies or at least one of them, and I'm not saying that you're not allowed to. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I am also one who is looking forward to these types of movies because I really like the people who they were covering. But this hip-hop cinematic universe has to be the dumbest thing that's out there. First off, we had Notorious, which had Aaron Sorkin levels of dialogue, such as this scene right here.
You wanna get something to eat?
But here's the problem. When you have directors like Anton Fuqua, who were signed on to be able to help this movie, or John Singleton, who worked with Tupac in the past, and both of them drop out because of creative differences, and then there's even a lawsuit, and then you end up hiring a guy named Benny Boom, there's a problem. I believe that the formula to success for a cinematic universe is to allow directors to do their thing because they're the ones who know how to manipulate emotions. The rest of the people, the producers, need to focus on something else, which kind of feels like that's all they focused on with these two movies. I mean, I don't want to talk about how Tupac died 20 years ago, yet this movie feels like it was rushed to make. I don't want to talk about how it feels like a mini-series that was like 10 or 11 episodes long. They paid a dude $25 to edit it in a day, and he came back with this highlight reel that was 2 hours, and they released it in theaters. Let's ignore the fact that there's such a lack of extras in this movie that when Tupac's doing a concert, it looks like he's at a middle school recital instead. Let's definitely not talk about how they went the super lazy route of choosing an interviewer to do the entire movie, and the interviewer is explaining to Tupac things that he did, which is really just for the audience to get a recap of what's going on. And most definitely, let's ignore the rumor that there's an iPhone 7 in the movie that takes place in 1996 because, well, I'm not going to watch the movie again to be able to pick that out, but it just adds to the fact that there are so many inaccuracies and inconsistencies in this movie. And again, I don't want it to be bad. I know that a lot of people feel that when you critique a movie or you dissect a movie or you focus on the bad things that you're just hating on it, but I wanted it to be good. There are scenes in this movie that I think have great performances and that have elements that are well, and there's even a scene where you see Tupac focusing in on being able to make the track exactly how he wanted it to be, showing that he was a perfectionist with his craft. So why isn't this movie reflecting that in its filmmaking? So if you like it, that's cool. Again, that's your opinion. What you can't argue though is this. When you have people in the movie who are real life people, who are still alive, and you don't consult them, that's a problem. For example, Jada Pinkett Smith said that most of what they showed on the screen didn't even happen and they never consulted her. There's a lot of major collaborators and friends they didn't approach. They even talked to his estate recently and they're not too happy with the movie. It's kind of jacked up also that it feels like they waited for Tupac's mom to pass before they even started moving forward with this thing. So you kind of gotta wonder, who's getting the money for this movie? You see, I think a lot of it just deals with bias, because with superheroes, like, it's just interpretations, and even when you have interpretations, people get mad. So now imagine a real person, someone who's not even here to defend themselves, but the people who are alive and are being portrayed, the ones who actually have stakes in the movie, those are the people who get to decide how the story is told. And it can get kind of bogus, because Straight Outta Compton, which I think is a fantastic movie, and good thing that it's not related to this in any way, shape, or form, but in that movie, you had a scene where Eazy-E is just breaking down crying, and he's having this very weak moment as he sees a billboard that shows how successful Dre is. And it's kind of like, I get you needed that emotional moment, but it's bogus because Eazy-E ain't here to defend himself and tell you to rewrite that. And it's not only inaccurate with kind of the timeline that was going on, but during that time, he was signing a little group known as Bone Thugs and Harmony, so he wouldn't be crying. On top of that, again, he's not here to defend himself, so why give him the weak moment in the movie and not Dr. Dre, who conveniently was around to say, yo, those allegations, let's just gloss over them in the movie. Ice Cube, who made sure that his son portrayed him as the most BA person throughout the entire movie. But Eazy-E, he's not a character, he's a real person. One thing I will say, though, is that all of these movies get one thing right. Suge Knight, because that man is crazy. Overall, it's dumb, disrespectful, and I believe cinematic universes belong to fictional characters. For real people, there's a lot of bias that can go on, especially when they're not here to defend themselves, and I believe that's what documentaries are for, when you can get different perspectives. And speaking of documentaries, you have Steve McQueen, who's making one for him, and he was a director of 12 years. He's a competent director. He knows what he's doing. So honestly, until that comes out, keep your eyes off everything else.